Wonderful. Welcome to Beginning United States Research using the Family History Guide. So if you have the Family History Guide open on your computers, you're welcome to follow along. Or if you'd rather watch up here on the screen, either way is fine. We're good either way. All right, so does anyone know how to find the United States country page? The quickest, easiest way? Sister Helen, I will call on you. You're pointing as if you know the answer, and you probably do. On the top menu, that's right. There's countries in the top menu, countries, and then the second entry down is United States. So very good. If there were if I had a better prize, I would definitely give it to you, but that's all we have. So the top menu is actually where you find most of the things that you're going to use navigation-wise in the Family History Guide. So we go over to countries, and the second entry down is United States. All right, so most of the pages in the Family History Guide have a header link area. So you see up here at the top, all of these are links to different sections or pages. So this is the United States, and I'm just going to briefly go from left to right so you can see the types of information that you can access here when we're talking about United States research. And they're sectioned into different areas. The bold print here, U.S. records and searches, vital records, census, immigration, military records, and other records. And as you can see, there's all sorts of interesting possibilities here. You have location geography, deaths and obituaries, and clicking on any one of these will take you to a page that deals with that particular topic. So if I'm interested in cemetery records, I would just click that link, and here you have the familiar choices and links to articles and videos that you can explore at any time. Open those up and watch a video, and these other ones will go to separate websites that will open up. Does that make sense? Anything you need to find, just pretty much available right there at the top. All right, something to know is the principle of opening and closing choices. This kind of greenish title here is a choice. If I click right on the choice, you notice that the text around it disappeared. And I can close this choice. And so I could see at a glance everything that's in this particular goal for the choices. There's a quicker way to do that. You can open all the choices and you can close all the choices. I'm up in here in the header area right now. Close choices automatically closes all the choices in the goal so you can see what you're going to be learning. And open choices opens them back up again so you can see the details. Any questions there? That works pretty much across all the projects in the Family History Guide, whether you're working with family search navigation or ancestry photos or whatever the topic might happen to be. Okay, with that, let's get into United States records. So just kind of a heads up, there's a lot of information in the United States page or pages for research. We're going to be focusing on some of the ones that are near the beginning, like the records, regions, vital records, that type of thing, simply to help you see how much information there is and how you can dive into specifics that will help you accomplish your goals. If we were to dive into specifics on each one of these, you would probably be here at least several days, so we don't want to do that. We know we have a time limit. But hopefully the specifics that we do show you will demonstrate that there are a lot of interesting and helpful and useful things for doing research yourselves and for mentoring and helping other people in their United States research. As we mentioned before in the consulting class that I delivered, this is about a month ago, several weeks ago, there's that concept of being a librarian or a library. We think we have to be the library, but actually it's better if we think of ourselves as a librarian and can point people to the information that they need. So let's go up here to the top left where it says U.S. records. So this goal helps us learn about U.S. records, the different kinds and what they're good for. One thing I'll point out is you see the summary that's just a few lines down. If you click the summary, that's one of those open and close things as well. And this works across the Family History Guide. So this gives you an idea of what you're going to be learning in this particular choice. Learn about basic record types, learn how to evaluate information in basic records, and discover a wider range of U.S. records and how to use them. Okay, and then you click the summary and you can close it back up again. So let's go down here to step number 2. By the way, these abbreviations, FS you can probably guess is what? Family Search. What do you think FMP is? Jeopardy question. Find My Past. You win another valuable prize, which I don't have with me. And now, another easy question. What do you think AC is? Ancestry.com. Yeah, very good. RT. You can always cheat and look down. You see as I hover over it, the URL is in the lower left-hand corner. Yes. So if you can read that on your computer or on the screen, it's pretty small. But hovering over anything will help you see what the link is. So, okay. And of course, the video icons will display videos and the article icons will open up articles. All right, so we're going to open up an article from Find My Past. This is 20 Family History Resources. I like this one because it gives you a nice overview of what the different record types are. And with all of these links, they open in a separate window, as you see we have right now, so you can close it up or open it up. So, before we get down into this article, we already see that there are census records and birth, marriage, and death records. What other types of records are there that we commonly use in family history research?
Like draft registration?
Draft registration? Just throw out anything that pops into your mind. Obituaries, military records, newspapers. What else? City directory. Okay, very good. So we're going to scroll down. She's probably reading it right off the screen. Okay, there you go. But how is those answers coming so quickly? She's reading them. Well, I tell you, it is better to be the librarian than the library, and she gets the librarian seal right there. Okay, census records, birth, marriage, and death. These are commonly known as vital records. Family history stories, newspapers, military records, church records, passenger lists, city directories, court and prison records. Interesting. I don't know if that's anyone's. Is that your great-grandma? No. Okay, see, we're off to an encouraging start already. This is good. Immigration and naturalization records, photographs, okay, so the list goes on. This article has a slightly UK flavor to it because it's produced by Find My Past. Does everyone know the areas of focus of the different platforms? So MyHeritage has most of their records, well, the specialty of their records are around continental Europe. Find My Past, specialty is United Kingdom. Family Search is kind of everywhere, and Ancestry is kind of everywhere. But if you're looking for the deepest record collections, let's say for the United Kingdom, then Find My Past probably has that. If you're looking for European record collections, MyHeritage probably has that, and then Family Search and Ancestry cover the rest. Okay, so we're going to close this up. And as I go down a little bit farther here, on number 4, it says Ancestry.com, 5 things you should do with every record, and there's a little I there. Does everyone see that? Look what happens when you hover, it's step number 4. When you hover over the eye, look what happens there. You have a list of items that are inside that video. Now, some of you have probably thought, okay, I want to watch a video, but do I have to sit through the whole thing? And how do I know what's in the video? How do I know if I'll be bored or if I'll be excited? Well, this is one small step to helping you understand what's inside the video. So these links here actually take you to places inside the video, kind of like a quick index or table of contents. So if I click this list the points,
But I do have to think about it.
it took me inside the video.
All the points of genealogical importance. What are all the things that I've learned from it? And then where you born?
Okay, and so on and so forth. So does that make sense? We're still in the process of adding, as you can tell, that's a large task to go through because we have hundreds of videos. But that is something that we're adding to the Family History Guide, is to give you an inside look inside a lot of these videos so that you can click and get to a specific topic. We also have a similar feature for articles that we'll show you a little bit later. We're going to scroll down now to choice B. Become familiar with different types of index records. How many of you have used the United States Public Records Index? Anyone? Sister Weaver, I bet you have. Of course. Extensively. That's where she does her FBI work, most of it, missing persons and so forth. So the Public Records Index, its focus is a little bit later. If we click here on this article by Family Search, we say, okay, what is in this collection? You find that it tracks people who resided in the United States between 1970 and 2009. Okay, so this is for finding people who are more recent. Now, would anyone ever use this? Well, for me, it came in pretty handy. And let me tell you a personal story. One of my uncles became a hermit. We kind of had a rift in the family going years back, and I know that some families have these. Our family did. And one of my uncles decided he was tired of the family and he just took off and became a hermit somewhere. I wish I knew where he was, because it'd be great to find out his information and help figure out what happened to him, and maybe get the work done, temple work and so forth. So anyway, I sicked my daughter onto the job with me. My daughter works at Ancestry.com. She was working in ProGen, the research arm of Ancestry. Now she works in the corporate area, and she does those "Who Do You Think You Are" TV spots and stuff, and so that's kind of cool. Can I sneak in the backstory? Yes, I'm going to sneak in the backstory. So she got her master's in medieval studies, and I thought, well, that's nice. And then she went to Yorkshire, England, in York, with all the Roman ruins. I mean, wonderful place to study medieval history. She finished, came back and said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you. Now, what are you going to do?" "Oh, teach maybe, or something." Okay. Well, it was rough. She was that close to becoming a waitress at Chili's. Not that there's anything wrong with being a waitress at Chili's, but it's kind of different than a master's degree in medieval studies. So she did land a support job at Ancestry, doing support for the British Isles overnight. So she did the graveyard shift when the people in England were up and so forth. And she kind of hid on her resume that she had that master's degree because she thought she would be overqualified. So she got that job, but then they found out that she had that, and they said, "Why didn't you tell us?" She said, "Oh no, here it comes." Said, "We need to have you working on a research team." Oh, okay. So interesting. I think the Lord kind of blessed her in being able to find something that she could do, and that's turned into just amazing opportunities. So you never know. Anyway, it was kind of a fun story. Okay, so we are going to go to this link here that says U.S. Public Records Index, back to my story about my uncle the hermit. Yes, we've got to figure out what's going on with him. So we're going to click that. This takes us to the family search search screen for United States Public Records, 1970 to 2009. And this is one of the ways that we track down information about him because we had heard a rumor that he had moved to Maine. So I type in sorry, I hit the wrong key. I type in and search. And oh, I have to log into family search. I keep forgetting that. Well, once I'm in, here are the results, and the second one was him. He moved to this little teeny podunk town called Unity, Maine, and that's exactly where Hermit would live. It just had like a little post office and a couple houses and a road and no stoplights. And my cousin, who also found out about this, who knew him pretty well growing up, she actually got a phone call into him before he passed away and was able to talk to him for about half an hour and hear some of his kind of far out theories and stuff. We tried to get permission to get his temple work done, and some of his family members said, no, we don't want that. So, okay, 110-year rule, we're waiting for that. But it was an interesting story. So the United States Public Records can be a great way to track down people that you need to get connected with. Okay, moving, yes, question? 1970 to 2009, right.
Can you talk about if there's something earlier than that?
Oh, there's lots of other ways to find those people, yes.
So when you say 1970 to 2009, what date is that? Their death date or?
No, those are dates that they have, that they've interacted with the government so that they have like utilities or private ownership of land, these types of things. Something that the government has a public record of, and so they make those. Because the public record, anybody can ask, okay, I need a public record for such and such, and yes, you can get those. Okay, so going down a little bit farther, the record selection table. Have any of you used the record selection table besides Debbie Weaver? I think you're probably exempt for most of these questions, so you don't have to raise your hand. We'll just assume that you have. Okay, anyone else? Record selection table? Okay, this is good. So the record selection table is a nice family search tool. So I'm going to click that link. It's also called the record finder, record selection table or record finder. The thing that's nice about this is it gives you kind of a prioritized list of records and what they are valuable for. So you'll see if you're trying to track down a birth date, these are the types of records that you might want to look at first. Vital records, church records, Bible records, and then you might possibly find birth dates in cemetery, obituary, or census records. Does that make sense? As you're working with patrons who say, oh, I need to find some information about my, such and such a relative, let's look in the newspapers and see if we can find them. Okay, you could do that, but some records are going to be better for finding certain things than others. So just taking that case in point, if I go up here and I'm going to do a Control F, that's just kind of like your internet browser find on a certain page here. So up in the top, and if I type in newspapers, you'll see highlighted all the occurrences of newspapers. Which column do newspapers mostly land in? They land in the then search. Does that make sense? So newspapers are more of a secondary, except maiden name and marriage are often a primary source. Newspapers are often a primary source for that. So hopefully that gives you an idea of priorities for records and what might most likely give you some results when you're doing your searches. Any questions on that? And each of these blue links will take you to a Family Search Wiki discussion about that particular type of record, which is also handy. Okay. Now we're going to jump over we're going up to the header part here. We're done with discussing U.S. records for a while. Let's go to the second item, location and geography. Does everyone see that up in the top? Location and geography, the second item over. I click that, and we're going to learn about location and geography as search tools. I'll click Summary. So here we learn about geographical borders over time, which can be changing and shifting, complicating the issue. How to learn where your ancestors previously lived, tie events and jurisdictions together. Anyone know what a jurisdiction is in terms of family history? A jurisdiction is an entity or organization that owns a record. So it could be, any guesses? Who might own a record?
County?
A county. Yeah, a county could be a jurisdiction. A church. Yeah, a parish, a church, a county, a state, the military. Yeah. This is an interesting point. The fourth bullet, look for records before looking for names. Now that goes backwards to conventional wisdom. I mean, I was always taught, okay, here's your family name and it dead ends right here. You look for that person's name as far back as you can. Lots of times it's more beneficial to actually start looking at the records that exist in a certain locality and then see if those have the names that you're interested in. You've got to be able to establish records and sources before you, what is one of the problems you could run into if you're only searching for names? Yes, you get too many of them, or what if that name isn't really accurate? Then you're up a creek. You'll be searching forever for nothing, but you may find in the records exactly the information that you need. And there may be additional clues in the information in the records that you are examining. Things you didn't expect to see, you may see, which is an added bonus. So we're going to go down to step number 2, how to locate your ancestor in the United States. This is a very handy one. Now open up that article. And this has steps that you can follow. Excuse me. Check previous research, check these sources. So Janet, in answer to your question, what are some other places or records that you could search besides the PRI, Public Records Index? Here are some. If you know the state but not the county or the town, here are some strategies here. If you want to know where your ancestor lived previously, check these types of things. Okay, so a very handy overview of locating records, especially if you're running into dead ends. And it's nice, the Family History Guide just lines up these resources for you one after the other, so you don't have to search around on Family Search or Ancestry and figure out, oh, now where would I find this? It's all right there where you need it. Okay, step 3, identify where genealogy records are located. We're going to click this article here, identifying where records are located. This opens up into an article written by James Tanner. Anyone familiar with James Tanner? Yeah, Debbie Weaver is. James Tanner is a noted genealogy blogger. It's at the Genealogy Star and Rejoice and Be Exceeding Glad. If you Google James Tanner blogs, you'll find he has like 5 or 6 different blogs that he does. He's also the chairman of the board of the Family History Guide Association. So we like James. He's a terrific guy. He is a lawyer by trade, so he tends to write very cut and dried, black and white terms. So one of the things I like here, if you go down just a little, he says, I often say that jurisdictions pile up like pancakes. The point is that records can be kept by different entities depending on which entity has the ability, right, or duty to create the record. So you've got a military record, could also have a person's birth date on it. A death certificate could also have a birth date. And some records, like military census and tax, are kept at a national level. Some, like births and deaths, are kept at the state level. Some records, such as land, property, marriage, are kept at the county level, and other records are kept in cities and towns. Is that making sense? So you have a complete spectrum. You've got national, you've got state, you've got county, you've got towns, and then you throw in the military on top of that. So lots of different places and jurisdictions where records may be kept. And understanding that can help you sort through where to find records. All right. We're going to have some visual fun. Right now we've been talking and yakking a lot and discussing a lot of possibilities, and we're going to see some fun things, which has to be part of your genealogy experience as well. So we're going to go down to choice B, using maps effectively. Okay, step one, and here's one of these I buttons, where to get various types of maps. There you go. So you don't have to start at the beginning of a very long article. You can jump inside the article wherever you need to be. But up in the first part, here are different types of maps. Atlases, boundary change, census, city and town maps, so forth. This helps you track down and trace the comings and goings of people, which becomes very important. That helps you, if you know where an ancestor is traveling or moving, that gives you clues into what types of records might be available and more useful. So you're not looking in the wrong place. Looking in the wrong place can be a real dead end. Looking in the right place can provide all sorts of positive results for you. Okay, now we're going to go down to step 7. Explore the David Rumsey map collection. This is a very interesting one. So I'm going to click that. It takes us to an external website, the davidrumsey.com. And sometimes this takes a while to load up. Okay, so you see you have lots and lots of links to maps. You could scroll down and you notice my slider bar here is barely moved. And there's lots and lots of maps. And they're alphabetical, so if you know of a particular area that you're interested in looking for, you can find that. So just for purposes of illustration, I'm going to go over here in the second column and I'm going to go down to Aberdeen, Ohio. Let's suppose I have some relatives from Aberdeen, Ohio. You have a granddaughter named Aberdeen? Is she from Aberdeen, Ohio? No, probably not. From Utah. Okay, so we click Aberdeen, Ohio, and you'll see a map up here. And I click on it to get it to enlarge. And you'll see slider bars here. And I'm going to move the slider bar. Sometimes that happens and it disappears, which is, okay. So I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse because once in a while that's, and then it comes back. Never mind, I'm going to use the scroll wheel. As I drag and as I look at the interesting thing that I'm finding here, I'm finding people's names. Mrs. N. Bradford, J. Dempsey, graveyard. Oh, so J. Sidwell lived next to the graveyard just over the precinct border, and he probably knew Mrs. N. This is kind of fascinating to me to be able to see. And when was this map recorded or drawn? You can look over on the left for information, and it says here, date 1877. So this is kind of cool. It's back before the age of Google and all these types of things, but that's when people were making the hand-drawn maps and trying their best to record personal information there. So this is an example of map information that may be very interesting and useful. Again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I just took one example, but it shows you the kinds of cool things that you can see in some of these tools. The Family History Guide tries to collect the best of the best and most interesting tools to help you with your family history research. Okay, so that's the David Rumsey site. We're now going to go down to step number 10, historic county boundaries for all U.S. states. We're going to pick the Randy Majors site here. This is step number 10, Randy Majors site. And you'll see, you can disregard, some of these sites have ads, and you have to be careful you don't click them thinking that you're getting something else, like, no, I don't want to get maps, no thank you. So it comes up with this map, and it has a default year of January 15th, 1880. But what I'm interested in is, let's suppose I want to see how the boundaries changed in the state of Indiana over time. I'm going to type in Indiana and click Go. And you'll see by default here, I'm in Tipton County. But if I click a different county, this Frankfort City is in the county of Clinton. And then we go over here, and we have Tippecanoe County, which has Lafayette and Dayton and so forth. Does that make sense? So you can see the county's name and where it was created and so forth. Okay, well, so far so good. This is basic county information. But the real magic happens when you start playing with the dates. So I'm going to go up here to our handy time traveling machine, and I'm going to click the left arrow to go back a decade. I'm in 1870, 1860, 1850, 1840. Oh, did you see something happen there? I'm going to go back to 1840. Now look what happens when I go to 1830. Several counties did not exist then. Going back another 10 years, whoa, major. And you can zoom out. I'm going to use the minus button to zoom out. There's the state of Indiana and the counties that existed. You had one humongous county up here, Indiana County. Okay, going backwards in time. Even fewer. Okay, now what happened? We're in the year 1800, and you've got counties, as it were, that cross our current state lines. Can you see the challenge that we have in doing research? We're in such and such a county, except it's by Google standards that, no, that's in Illinois. No, it didn't used to be. Okay, we're going to go back one more. And what is this county called? Northwest Territory. It gets interesting because in 1787, the United States created the territory of the United States Northwest, the Northwest Territory, of which this was part. So 1787, before that, you get all these colonial names and so forth. In Family Search, you can actually select the colony of such and such because, you know, before that time, the United States really didn't exist with all of the states and, you know, that we know. Okay, so anyway, does that make sense? This is a great way to track down shifting county boundaries or even to know, okay, it's useless for me to try to track down a record in this county because the county didn't exist yet, or maybe it was brand new, so I'm going to look in a neighboring county. I might have more luck. All right, so it's a pretty useful site. The Newberry website that we didn't look at also has some pretty good county information as well. And you can even do a Google Earth version of that. All right, we're going to scroll down to D, city, county, and town directories. I'm going to go down to step number 5, 6 things to find. This is an article from Ancestry.com. City directories are basically done in more urban situations. So you find a city directory of people who congregated in a larger town. But what types of information might you find in a city directory? You might find your ancestor and other family members that you didn't know about. Streets and maps. Churches and clerics or ministers. Sometimes you can find names of ministers who were in charge of congregations, and that gives you clues about church records. Cemeteries that exist in a particular city or area. Advertisements. You may find your ancestors showing up in an advertisement in a newspaper, and that can be tracked down in a city directory. Other historical information. And when we talk about history, when you're doing family history, it's hard to avoid history. It kind of sneaks up on you, which is a cool thing because we're involved in connecting with our ancestors, and part of that is understanding the times that they lived in. We're counseled by Prophet Joseph Smith and in the Doctrine and Covenants to understand peoples and places of the earth and learn all sorts of different types of, get all sorts of different types of learning. So this is a good example to me of following that counsel, is becoming at least somewhat familiar with the history of the particular times in the geographies that you're working in, whether it's United States or somewhere else. So that's a little bit about city directories. Okay, scrolling down. Oh, before we scroll any farther, let's talk about quick links. So do you see these lightning bolts up at the top? They're not just for fancy design. Every topic up at the top that has a lightning bolt has quick links to records of some type or another. So we're in location and geography, and it has a lightning bolt, and this is what the lightning bolt is for. You've got quick links to all of these different record collections. So if I wanted to find out, okay, Ancestry.com, city directories, I click that, and I'm immediately taken to a search screen for United States city directories in Ancestry.com. Notice that I didn't have to wend my way through Ancestry looking for, now how would I search for city directories in it? It's right there. You're ready to go. FS, this public records thing that we already looked at before, there's a quick link for it so you can find it easily. Scientific, there's all sorts of different quick links that can be very helpful for you. If I wanted to look at, well, we'll look at those later. Okay, so histories and timelines. How many of you have used timelines in trying to track down ancestor information? Just recently. Janet just stumbled on timelines. Okay. So timelines basically lay out a map of important events in your ancestors' lives. This can be handy if, for example, there are two people or even three people who have similar names or the same name, and you're trying to think, now, is my ancestor this person or that person? If you lay out a timeline from left to right, you can see dates and events that start falling into place, and you can compare them top to bottom and say, oh, this person cannot be my ancestor because they were here, or this happened at this date, and that doesn't match the records that I already have, and so forth. So we had an intern in the Family History Guide Association, a BYU student named Rachel, who did a terrific job for us. She wrote a blog article that I would highly recommend. So we're going to go down to step 3 here, creating ancestor timelines. And this is a pretty good practical step-by-step approach to how to create a timeline for ancestors. It gives you a couple of examples. This is one that she used in her genealogy class when she was getting her degree from BYU in genealogy. And you've got the more detailed, and these are kind of small, but you could blow them up. Basically, she was using Google spreadsheets to coordinate this information. And you can even publish the spreadsheets and share them with other people, so they become a really nice way to collaborate on your family history research. So I would recommend learning about timelines and experimenting with a few, especially as you get into the fuzzy areas of your research and you think, okay, we got to separate who was what and who doesn't belong in my family tree, so forth. All right, now we're going to go into the states. So I'm sliding up to the very top of the United States page. And you'll see you have a list of the U.S. states here. Does everyone see that at the top? You can either scroll up, or if you happen to be at the bottom of a page and you don't want to scroll up, you can simply click the first item in the header area, and that gets you there pretty fast as well. So we're at the top of the United States page, and we're looking at this list of states. So I'm going to click, just for reference, California. Anyone from California here? It's funny, in the other class, there were 5 people from California. It's like, yes, I'm from California. So law of averages says, no, probably not tonight. Your wife is from? Okay, that's good. I feel vindicated. That's very cool. Okay, so just scrolling down through this, you'll see the same header links up at the top. You've got research and records, archives, vital census records, church, immigration. And these goals, I'm just going to click them one at a time. The goal order is the same in all 50 United States. So as you're going through different states, you'll see the same sequence of header links and goals. Archives and libraries, vital and census records, and you can see some of the quick links there. Church and cemetery records, immigration and immigration. Anyway, there's lots of them there. So we are going to go to, we talked about quick links before. So you could, if you wanted to take a look at vital records and census records, you could go to quick links and say, California Birth Index. Okay, family search, let's go. It's that fast to get to any search that you need to get to using these quick links. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about county research. We talked about that just a bit in terms of the jurisdictions. There's county records. Yes?
I got lost. Where do we go to get to?
Okay, so up at the top, we could click vital and census records.
Okay.
Yeah, always rely on that top header link area. That gets you wherever you need to go throughout the Family History Guide. And then it's a matter of just scrolling down a bit and you'll see these quick links. Okay, so if I'm back up at the top, you see this CA counties link. It's under the picture. If you're interested in getting back to the United States main page, you would click United States. But if you're interested in taking a look at California counties, you click that. And you see a list of California counties. So the legend says the name corresponds to a family search screen. A is for Ancestry, L for Linkpendium, and G for Genealogy, Inc. So I'm from Ventura County. If I click the name here, I would go to the family search screen for California, for Ventura County. That gives you kind of a history and some record sources and so forth. So it's pretty cool. How many of you have heard of Linkpendium? Very few people have. This is a kind of a well-kept secret. How many of you have heard of Cindy's List? Okay. Do you know the Cindy's List story about the paper? Okay, good. I like sharing this one. So one Saturday when I had absolutely nothing constructive to do, I sat down and I thought, you know, Cindy's List is a huge website. On their site, they say, guess how many links they have? Over 330,000 links. I mean, this Family History Guide has a lot of stuff, but by comparison, it doesn't have anywhere near that number of links. So I got to thinking, what if you printed every link that's on that website And suppose that each link had, let's say, 5 pages worth of material, which is just an educated guess, and you printed them double-sided, and suppose you had a printer that would actually do that, and then you stack the paper on your desk. How tall would the stack of paper be? See what a crazy life I lead? It's like, why don't I do something? That's my wife says, get a hobby. Oh no, family history guy. No, never mind. Any guesses how high the stack of paper would be? 10 miles. That's a little high, but that's good. 275 feet, or the size of a California redwood tree.
Wow.
That is a lot of paper. So you wonder why people think, man, they're afraid to get into family history genealogy because they feel like they'll drown with all the information. Well, they very well could if they try to absorb it all at once. So that's one reason why the Family History Guide was built, to anti-fire hose the internet and to filter the information, put it into sequential and priority order so that it's not so much to swallow all at one time. Okay, so Linkpendium actually has even more links than Cindy's list, but they do a great job of filtering the information. So I'm going to go to Ventura County and I click the L for Linkpendium. Look at the amount of information you have there. Census, church, court and legal, land records, libraries, maps, military. Good stuff. So if you ever need to know anything about Ventura County, there you go. Of course, that applies to any county in any state in the United States. You just pick whichever one it is. Glendale is in, you know, I used to live in La Crescenta, so I should know that. Do we have a Burbank? No, we don't. I'm failing my geography. Is it Los Angeles County? It might be LA County. Is it? See, but 1 second before she asked Google, I was able to come up with Los Angeles. Okay. It was a feeble attempt, I'm sorry. All right, so there you go. See, always better to be the librarian than the library. See, very good. Okay, that's a look at county records there. Let's take a look at, oh, guess what I did? I just closed the Family History Guide. Nothing personal, but there it is, and I know how to get back to the United States page because I was paying attention. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go to U.S. regions. Just a very quick thing here. Not only by individual states, but you can find information about resources in the Midwest or the Northeast or the southern states or Gulf states, and find all of these videos that give you professional introductions into how to do research there from Family Search. Those are helpful as well. All right, so we've covered the front part pretty in depth. We're going to kind of skip over some of the other areas, but just show you. Up in the header link area, census by decades. First of all, by records, number 1 gives you an overview of what the census is about and how to navigate it and so forth. But number 2, by decades, helps you actually get to a particular decade of census and how to learn how to effectively use census records there and connect with doing research for that particular decade. And it's got some of these hover links as well where you can go and hover over things and get to particular areas inside. So this is a really good way to both to educate yourself and the people you're working with in terms of, okay, how do we get into census records and really make sense out of them? And you'll get excellent overview articles about how to follow those tips doing that. Immigration, records, naturalization. I'm going to skip over to other resources because this is kind of a fun area here. D, immigration, other resources. I'm going to scroll down to choice D. The BYU Immigrant Ancestors Project has some kind of fun stuff. So we're going to go to search by archive to get started here. And here you'll see archives of all sorts of immigrant databases. So you might think, oh, I have some immigrants from Bordeaux, France on my family. So here you could click and do immediate searches on those people. So it gives you lots of clues on how to do immigrant research by these coordinated databases. Yes, question?
Okay, I'm sorry, I just lost. Went to other resources.
Okay, so up in the top, immigration,
Yeah.
other resources, and then I scroll down to choice D. D. Fortunately, none of these pages involve a lot of scrolling. It used to be in the Family History Guide that we had longer pages, but a couple months ago, we went to a short page model. So we divided up the goals. Now there's one goal per page, so you don't have this long scrolling. That makes it even more essential to rely on the header links because those are what take you to the goals immediately. Okay, very good. Military. Let's go over here to military records. I'm going to go to the second choice, by conflict. And here you have some great resources for, depending on what battles, you may have an ancestor that fought in a Revolutionary War. And here's your quick links to Revolutionary War records, whether they're family search or ancestry. Civil War records with tons of quick links. Union soldiers, service, Confederate Army casualty lists, all there, right there for you to research. World War I and quick links. World War II, Korean War, and other wars such as the Spanish-American War, War of 1812, and so forth. Any questions there? Lots of good resources. Other records, religious, church, travel, Quaker records. I might mention, as you're doing this research, we added a new area in the top menu called Faiths. So some of you may have seen, obviously this is the Church of Jesus Christ. It used to be called the LDS page, but we don't use that term as much anymore. So this is the Church of Jesus Christ page, but it has all sorts of explanations about temple, family history, and so forth for members of the church. But you'll also see in the faiths, there is Catholic research. So if I click that, there's the basics of doing Catholic genealogy, and there are also, if I go to the second goal here, research by country, it puts you in touch with Catholic resources and records for any of these countries that you may be interested in. Same type of thing with Protestant records, learn about Protestant family history, or I may go to goal number 2, research by country, and here you'll find Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, whatever denomination records by country as well. So this can be, if you're working with someone who is not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they want to say, well, do you have any Catholic, Protestant, other types of record research? And the answer is yes. Other religion denominations, the problem is they don't have a lot of records. So you may have, I don't know, Hindu and Greek Orthodox and so forth, and it's harder because the records are just not there. That same applies to countries. There are countries around the world, Africa, the Middle East, and so forth, where it's just tough to find records. And so in the Family History Guide, we don't have records in the countries menu for Middle East and Africa and that type of thing. But hopefully we'll get there. All right, so we're going to go back to the United States. I think we've covered pretty much what we need to there. The only other thing that I'd like to point out is outside of the United States, how would you coach somebody if they need some basics in research strategies? Where would you go in the Family History Guide? This is worth a lot of money. Not.
Where's your phone number listed?
Oh. Ow. Touche. Okay, so we go to, for example, Family Search Project 4. This is up in the top menu. Discover. Ancestry also has a research, and the others have research. We could go to Project 4, and here, as you look across the header links at the top, you'll see how to identify a line to do research on, how to form a research strategy, how to use family search tools, such as the catalog, the records, the search, and so forth, how to develop search skills like Googling and so forth, how to solve problems using interesting research techniques. So these are some of the best research strategies that we've collected, and it saves you or the people you're helping from going down blind alleys or using inefficient means to try to get to the end. If you can discover some solid basic research strategies, learn them yourself, and then share them with others, you have a leg up on the whole process because you won't be wasting time going down blind alleys and so forth. So this is one of the cool things about the Family History Guide. You can spend just 5 or 10 minutes watching a video or reading an article, and then, now I know what they mean by inferential genealogy or neighborhood genealogy, or some of these different techniques and strategies for finding ancestors. And then you lay awake thinking at night, now how could I use this? And we accept no responsibility for insomnia that we produce. We disclaim all of that. Okay. Thank you. Any questions about U.S. research? Wow. As you can tell, I love family history. I have a testimony of it. That's the most important thing. I mean, I think the Family History Guide is cool and so on and so forth. But the main thing is family history, and for those of us that are members, the associated temple work is life-changing, both this side and that side. And you can't deny it that the spirit of Elijah and the connection to ancestors is something that just permeates family history, whether it's for members of the church or non-members of the church. It's a wonderful thing. And I do have a testimony of family history and temple work. I love it. The Family History Guide has been a blessing in my life, and I love sharing it. There are many great things yet to come, so stay tuned. And it all happened right there where she's sitting. That was the chair where the Family History Guide was born. I would come in here on my shifts and after shifts and sit in that, usually that spot, and try to figure out, now, how can I do this? And the inspiration came just in little pieces. It took a while, but it was there. But I give thanks to Dave Castleton for the inspiration he had to set aside some money to get this place approved and opened. And you've seen the miracles that have happened here are just amazing.
How long did it take you to put this?
About a week and a half.
That long?
Yeah, it's more my problem. It was a busy weekend. Yeah, I couldn't.
It was only after hours.
That was a very long night. I was called to be a consultant here in just a couple of months after it opened. And then people would walk in that asked the same questions, and I thought, I should put a website together. Anyway, from the time I started doodling on the back of napkins, that was like December of 2014. Did this open in February 2014? I think so, yeah. So in December of that year, I started sketching some things out. The website launched in July of 2015. And so, but it was much smaller. I remember Lori Beardahl, we showed it to her, and she's, oh, that's nice. Because
I guess it's a nice start.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, nice. And I thought, oh, shoot. But I mean, looking back, it's like, yeah, the thing was just jello. It was wet cement. It wasn't really ready for prime time. But once we got it firmed up and stuff, and then people started saying, oh. And I would tell, Bob Eisen and I would tell people, you know, we think this has the potential to really be something. And people would go, you and all these other people and stuff. But, I mean, as it has turned out, actually has turned into that. Family Search has gotten behind it. It went through church correlation in 3 weeks. That is absolutely stunning. And then it sat in legal for 3 months. I'm a lawyer, Steph. Don't say I said that. But just getting it through church correlation that fast was just amazing. And now we're working with other ways to partner with Family Search. And it's interesting because we're in an interesting situation. We're a third party. We're not part of Family Search. We're not owned by the church. They're going out on a limb and partnering with us because of what we have. And it takes trust on their part that we will be what they need us to be. It sounds like a hymn. Be what they need us to be. But they're taking that risk. So we're trying. My motto is we just got to make this the best website it can possibly be. There's one of the former CEOs of Intel Corporation wrote a book called "Only the Paranoid Survive," and that's I used to work for Intel. I subscribed to that theory. So, yeah. Okay. What's next? What's next? We've got to get this thing moving. We've got to, because if you sit there and enjoy where you are, it's game over pretty much. So, okay, thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording